Good afternoon, Harlem and Harlems of the world. I am Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. And as many of you know, Harlem Network News is a new media platform. We started at the onset of COVID, and we are still here. It's almost 3 years, which is incredible. It'll be 3 years in April. But my background is in film and television. But at the onset of COVID, I knew it was critical that we just jump in the deep water. I mean, Black folks were walking around Harlem talking about, I'm Black, I can't get it. So, and that's because they didn't really see themselves on the news and they didn't see the images. So I just think it's very, very important that we tell our own stories. Knowledge is power. We're able to engage people and move them to activism because they know what's going on in their community. As we start, we just really want to hold up our community in prayer with COVID and just the gun violence that is happening from the police, from, you know, us killing us, which I call it all systemic racism. I am a personal victim of this. On November 5th of 2021, I lost my son, Ali Sam Wayman Wisdom, to gun violence on the Shinnecock Reservation. And often, Colombo the Shining Star, often what happens in our community is the case just goes unsolved. You know, you have to solve the case yourself. And I'm a member of Harlem Mothers Save with Jackie Rowe Adams. And I mean, I just saw her on New York One just speaking about this, because there are at least 50 members and growing of Harlem Mothers and Fathers Saved. So we have a lot to deal with. We saw what happened in Memphis. And once again, this is an example of not really reporting the whole news, because you only saw pictures of like 5 Black police officers when we know there were 8 and the other 3 were white. Their pictures were not paraded like that. And most people don't know that. You know, it's a 2-minute sound bite. You look at what you see, and you know what you see is what you get. So this is how some untruths are told. You know, it's horrific either way, but it's just an example of how misinformation gets out there. So we have to look at the whole big picture. But today we are dealing with some living history that is happening as we speak. There is an incredible event that's coming up at the New York Public Library in the Bronx. And it is the screening of a film. And this film is really about AJASS, an organization, and the Black is Beautiful movement. And we have the filmmaker on today. And we also, in this screening, we will be honoring the life of Bob Gumbs, Robert Gumbs. And he was a part of this movement. I understand he has narrated the film. And so we are honored today. We have the filmmaker on, Louise, Dente, and I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. We also have Harold Thomas, who was and is a partner of Bob Gumbs, Gumbs and Thomas Publishing, and many other ventures. And at that event that's going to happen in the Bronx on the 18th, and I believe it's at 2:30, we'll talk more about that. Harold is going to be the host, the master of ceremony. We do have Nzingha on, who is the niece of Bob Gumbs and a daughter of the movement of Black is Beautiful. And she was on the show before when we had the Grandassa models. And we have a special guest, which is Diallo Gumbs, who is the son of Bob Gumbs. So we have a robust conversation, a program, and I love it. It's living history, and you're hearing it first on Harlem Network News for those of you who are tuning in. So I'm going to defer to Harold, our host. Tell us who you are, whose you are, and then we're going to go roundtable to all of the other people. Tell us, Harold, about this event that's happening on the 18th and your connection to it and who you are, whose you are. Thank you.
In a short form, it's very interesting. I am a cultural activist. I've been involved since an early teenager growing up in New York. I have always enjoyed various forms of the arts. And as a teenager, I grew up in Midtown Manhattan in the Amsterdam houses, which was an experiment in the 40s of integration. So the only way you can get into that housing unit was to have to have been a veteran. And my dad was a Navy veteran. So I'm the only real Yankee in my family because I was born in Brooklyn. But my two older brothers, Verl and Adamola, my mom, grandmother, great, all of the generations of the Thomases and Matthiases were born and raised in the U.S. Virgin Islands, but before that, it was the Danish West Indies for 200 years.
Wow.
So I'm actually going back to the Virgin Islands the end of this month to celebrate 180 years of my family owning land in St. John, and it's going to be a ancestral, unbelievable experience. So I'm helping coordinate all of that. I am so honored to work with Louise again. Last May, we featured the premiere of AJASS Pioneers of the Black is Beautiful movement. Now, Louise did this on her own. She invested time, all of her money, well, a lot of all of her money. She got plenty money. I'm only kidding. But Louise has been an activist and a cultural person like yourself, giving the words to the people through her program, Cultural Caravan. She contacted me, asked me about the Dwyer Cultural Center. I said, of course. Adamola had already set it up. And when we premiered this movie last May, from then to now, it has turned out the international markets. So all the other people who have been doing films for many, many years, this is Louise's first jump out there, and she turned it out. So I'm co-hosting on the 18th. She'll fill you in on the rest of it. I am very happy to be part of it once again. And thank you, Terry, for bringing us to Harlem in the world.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And this is my humble tribute to Bob Gumbs. So I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to do that. And you know, one of the things is I love doing this because even though I know people, I always learn more about them. You know, I didn't know about the land in St. John. I've actually been there to a wedding. So just amazing. So we're going to give the mic to you, Louise, and then we're going to go roundtable to Nzingha and to Diallo. So thank you, Louise.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Terry, for graciously inviting us to be on your show. And it's really great to know that we have voices telling our story. And that's really what this is about. And that's what inspired me several years ago to do what we're doing now. So let me just first of all say this event has been sponsored by the Bronx County Historical Society. I'm very happy and honored. And let me just say, it was dear Bob and Nzingha Brath who had basically introduced me to them. And so, John, you know, it was based on the work that Bob has done in conjunction of preserving Bronx history, that they were excited about the possibility of screening it. So, you know, this is something Bob really wanted. So I'm very happy that we're able to make it happen. And certainly, and they will also be recognizing Bob's work as well. Some of his work will be displayed. And we're very honored that his family, his representative, will be there as well. So I just want to put that out there. You know, this is really a labor of love. I don't know, I don't want to go too far ahead, but you want me to talk about what inspired the event, or if there's anything else you'd like me to talk about?
Let's go to Nzingha and let her share her connection, and also Diallo, of course, and Then we'll come back to you because I know that you have an award-winning, and this for those of you who are just joining, I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News, and we are here making living history as we always do. We are talking about the AJASS Pioneers of the Black is Beautiful movement film that's going to be shown and screened next Saturday in the Bronx. But I want to just get around to our other guests and have them share their connection. And everybody on here is connected. But I want to come back to you because I know you have that award-winning show for 12 years, the culture, so we'll get right back to you for the cultural Caravan. Thank you. So Nzingha, just let us know who you are and whose you are. And I know that you're a daughter of the movement, so you might want to speak a bit about that and just about how that life experience has taken you into your business as an incredible makeup artist for film, television, theater. So thank you, Nzingha, for joining us.
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction, and I'm glad to be here with everyone. I am Nzingha, daughter of the movement, as you so beautifully coined the phrase, and I'm going to use it. My uncle is Robert Gumbs. My mother was one of the original Grandassa models, Jean Egyptia Gumbs. My father was Charles Peaker, chief executive of the ANPM, which is the African Nationalist Pioneer Movement, spearheaded by Sir Carlos Cooks. And I represent all of them posthumously. Myself, I'm a celebrity makeup artist, award-winning celebrity makeup artist. And thank you very much. And currently work on some of the biggest celebrities you've seen in this era, and work on several television shows, #1 television shows.
Okay.
So I'm glad to be here and share my time with you all.
Okay.
And
Well,
Diallo is my cousin.
yes.
And my uncle's son.
It's a family affair, and
the family motto, let's be very clear about this. The family motto has always been Black is beautiful.
absolutely.
That's the family motto. So let's be very clear moving forward.
I love it. That's amazing. And in a Harlem Network News audience, Nzingha raised a few items and issues. She spoke about the great movement with Carlos Cooks and Peaker, her dad, and her mom being a Grandassa model. And you can look back on Harlem Network News because we did an amazing piece on the Grandassa models, which kind of came out of the AJASS movement. And it was very iconic because it was like for the first time, there were, Black women of all hue and darker hue wearing their hair natural. And that was like part of what had to happen. So this was like monumental. And even with the movement with your dad, I learned something because I thought, I was born in the early 50s and I, kind of was all through the movement and so on and so forth. I went to HBCU school, Lincoln University. I was there with Gil Scott-Heron, so you think things, but there's always something to learn. I did not know that, I knew suddenly, first we were colored, then we were Negroes. My grandmother used to call everybody in the whole family and say, turn on channel 4, they got colored on TV. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that was a regular because colored was not on TV. But it was just so interesting because I didn't understand that there was a pointed movement for us to be, it was a conference in the late 50s for us to move from being called colored or Negro to Black and of African descent. And that was that movement. So I just think that
that was my father, Carlos Cooks, and all the gentlemen who are proudly honored in the film AJASS.
Okay.
All
Wow.
of the gentlemen of AJASS were part of that conference. So this was, this was groundbreaking all the way around. Not to mention the fact that, not to give away the entire film, which I couldn't in 5 minutes, but the fact that the movement that AJASS started, they started 2 movements. It was the Jazz Art Society, so there was an arts movement, as well as a Black is Beautiful movement, which included the Grandasas.
Okay, so thank you for that. And I just really wanted to assure, because a lot of times, especially with our younger people, we just make assumptions, that they know stuff, and if they weren't born and we don't have.
And some old people too.
Yes, no, it's true. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's not everywhere. And because our media is not really tailored like that, it's really important. I want everybody to know. I mean, there are younger people, when you say James Brown, they're like, who's that? You know what I'm saying? So we got to understand what we're dealing with and do those building blocks so that everybody is aware and conscious and really knows who they are and where they came from is critical. So Diallo,
Yes, ma'am.
share with us who you are, whose you are, and you're a son of the movement. So
I am a son of the movement. Yes, I am. Diallo Gumbs, son of Bob Gumbs. Unbelievable.
I'm not sure. We may have, let's see. I think we actually lost Diallo, okay, just as he was speaking, but I'm sure he will be right back in. So while we're waiting, Carol, maybe, okay, here he is, he's coming back in. Okay, yeah. Okay, so while, excuse me, while we're waiting for Diallo to come back in, and
I think I'm back.
You are back, and we just need to see you. Open up that camera, and
okay, hold on.
Harlem Network News is here, and we are here with a robust conversation on the film on AJASS Pioneers and Black is Beautiful that is going to be screened in the Bronx. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I got a phone call right at that very moment.
It's okay. You're here. So Diallo was speaking.
Yes, ma'am.
Sons of the Movement, and you can go right ahead and share.
Nephew of Jean Egyptia, cousin to the great Nzingha. I'm blessed to be in the presence of Louise, Harold, Terry. Thank you for having me on. Listen,
thank you.
I'm going to be honest. I personally have been in the fitness industry for close to a decade. I'm a group fitness instructor at Equinox, one of the top instructors. I'm going to give myself the kudos for that. We can check that out here at Equinox. But I will tell you this, coming from the personal side of things, I am growing into and just becoming more and more aware every day of how much more Bob Gumbs was than just a father to me. And oftentimes when you're a child and an only child of the movement, and from Bob's side, you become kind of insulated from things and you get into your own world. And then when you're thrust out there, due to just life happens, it's amazing for family, friends, and even strangers who are in my network when I've revealed who my father was and is and continues to be, how like I get the replies and responses. Your dad was a pretty great guy. I'm like, he was dad to me, So I am humbled to be here in this company. Terry, thank you for having me on. Louise, I mean, listen, I'm just going with the flow. I'm absorbing it. It's a surreal experience. And I tell you, on top of everything that Bob Gumbs is and was, as far as AJASS is concerned, and the movement, even more so on top of that, an amazing father. And to say that these days, when so many of them are needed, especially in our community, an amazing father. So all that I am. I tell everyone who asks about my mother, she is the boulder behind the rock that I am. Well,
All right.
she is the boulder that Bob Gumbs chose.
Okay. I love
say
that.
I'm
I
humbled
love
to be
that.
here and represent the family.
I love
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
And we salute, as you're saying that, your mom, Ida Gumbs, and
Yes,
that is a great way to describe her, as a boulder, because
Yes, well
absolutely.
said, Diallo, well said.
well said.
Well
That's
done.
a strong powerhouse. And there are a couple of people, when I look to some rocks, your mother, rock boulder.
No, that's right.
That's one of them. And when I look to Sokola, Braithwaite, that's another one. I mean, these are, we're in the same age range. They may be like a little bit older, but that's who I aim to be, because they are sisters that do the work,
Absolutely.
do the cooking and all the beautiful meals. The house is looking, like it's like doing all in organizations, So I will just say, this is Harlem Network News, and we are having a very robust living history conversation. But I'm here to say to you, and I know Nzingha knows this, but you have a lot of work to do now, Diallo.
Oh, no doubt.
You got a lot of work
No
to
doubt.
do, because, when you have a dad of that stature, a part of, I know this even from my son's transition, and he was just 43 when this happened, but you have to keep the legacy alive. You've got to keep the history alive. It's so amazing that Bob is narrating this film. I saw a film on PBS on Marian Anderson, and I was like, oh my goodness. You know what I'm saying? So these kinds of work, this is how people will know about it. So you got your job cut out for you. But
all cut out.
But you're built for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you have your incredible cousin. You know what I'm saying? You all got this. You got this. So Louise, tell us a little bit about your show. And I'm now understanding that this is, I believe, your first film. So tell us about that connection, transition from your show, 12 years, to now this film. Like, how did that all happen? Where did that all come?
Thank you. Do you mind if I go back a little bit? Because I really didn't talk about the film, and I really want to talk a little bit about that before I talk about Cultural Caravan.
Okay.
So basically the film was started several decades ago. I met Chris Asimedisi Hall, who's a phenomenal artist and part of AJASS, African Jazz Art Society and Studio. And he was telling me about his affiliation with AJASS at that time. I really didn't know too much about AJASS, but he was telling his story, and he was very excited about me, doing a profile on him for my program. And unfortunately, Chris had passed. And Elombe Brath, who was again the co-founder, came, and his brother Kwame came to finish the story, to help fill in the gaps in terms of who Chris was and Chris's affiliation. So that was my first opportunity to connect with them. So that was 2014. Then years later, in 2018, I had always known of Black Rose. She was a phenomenal, one of the original Grandessa models, a legend in her own right. So I said, Rose, I'd like to do a profile on you, for one of the first women who specialized in natural hair. So we had a wonderful interview. If you have a chance to check that out on YouTube, that was my first. So from that, I realized that I really needed to do something else. The forces were gearing me to do this. This was not, I take this on another level. From my meeting with some of the members decades ago to now, I said, I got to tell this story. So I met with Bob and Nzingha. Bob was excited about it. Nzingha Brath, who's the son of Elombe Brath. They both were excited about it. We talked to Sokola and others, and we said, look, this is what we're going to do. So from 2018 to the end, after 2019, my focus was getting the story together. Bob was very excited. And again, he was a very big supporter of this project through ups, down, everything, but he was that wind,
Okay, I
know,
love it.
so anyway, let me just speed it up. So we did it. I've been completed it maybe the beginning of 2019, and it was ready to go. When we presented it, as Harold talked about the premiere, so I'm not going to go into that. But
Okay,
as I said, this was really about a labor of love. So my thing is, I was going to tell the story. It wasn't about funding. I just used whatever resources I had because I know the story had to be told. It was not about that. It was about doing the work. So once it was finished, the response that the community had on that very first day, we had this big step and repeat, life-size one, set on the wall. And you had Bob, and it's similar to that, I call the Men in Black, but that distinguished photo that Bob and all the members appeared in. So people were so excited. And I mean, everybody, from that point on, Bob became a rock star. So I told him, I said, Bob, you're a rock star, because everybody wanted to take a picture with Bob. Bob being the only, not the only survivor. We do have Kwame Braithwaite, but unfortunately, Kwame Braithwaite's health is not in the best at this moment. So we basically had Bob was the only person who can actually tell the story of AJASS. So what I would say, just in accuracy, Bob basically is telling a session story. We do have a narrator. We do have someone who does the formal narration, and you'll see that in the movie. But Bob basically sets the stage. He fills in the blanks. He basically gives that other voice, those things that, it's like he's connected to those ancestors, that, and that's where Bob is. And you'll see how we connect all the dots. So that story, as it relates to what us as a people, is so powerful. And we brought, in addition to Bob, we had Bob Law, the distinguished journalist and cultural icon. We have Viola Plummer, who is a nationalist, a Pan-Africanist, very connected and very, we have historian, Dr. Tyreen Wright. She talks and I'm just right. And then of course the models themselves, as well as some members, Ernest Baxter, who was a member of the theater program, the theater, and we have some of the, so we have various members of the community response and talking to, and we went all the way to Washington to grab a very distinguished journalist, A.P. Bailey.
He
was very gracious about being there. So we went wherever we needed, and that was right before the pandemic. So sneaking back, getting around all the things going on to get the story told. So it was very phenomenal place. So what I will say, that we are very excited about it. We, as Harold was saying, that the show has been received recognition nationally as well as internationally from various festivals, is winning various festivals. So we're very honored by it. And Bob was very excited about that too. So my thing is that Bob's energy, his enthusiasm, is really what fueled, helped me at those times where the rough edges was Bob's enthusiasm, encouragement that kept things going. So, and it's funny, when I met his son, I said, wow, he has all of the energy to Bob. Bob was, I called a young elder. When people saw Bob, they thought he was 50. They didn't know that he was in his 80s because of his energy. And I said, wow, when I met Diallo, Diallo's like got that powerhouse energy. So I mean, he just captures his
that family energy,
energy and stuff. And Diallo, I know he knows this. Bob really respected the community, and the first persons that he had is his son. I saw a beautiful picture of Diallo as a little boy that your father has of your mother, I guess, holding you, and your father created art, just capturing you as a little boy. I said, who's that beautiful little baby? He says, that's my son. Oh, so, so Bob was a phenomenal artist. He understood our history and culture, and that through telling this story, I had the opportunity to get people familiar with Bob and his legacy as well. And of course, meeting the great Harold Thomas, they're just a phenomenal team. And that's the thing. And I'm very happy with the recognition. I'm happy with what it is, because it's really something that Bob and all of the brothers of the AJASS, as well as the Grandessa models, deserve. So I'm just happy that this story is being told. All right.
Well, we thank you. This is Harlem Network News, and I'm here with the creator of the great film, AJASS Pioneers and Black is Beautiful. And then everyone else that is on here is connected in many different ways, but it's really important that you're telling the story, and we all cross paths. You know, I said this when we had the Grandessa models on. I mean, I've known Black Rose since I was like 16, 15. You know, I grew up in Queens, and I remember getting on that train, getting to Harlem at like 8:30 in the morning to get my first Afro, you know, with Black Rose. And, you know, you didn't only get your Afro, she had, and she and I think we share the same birthday. So we've just been kindred spirits throughout the year.
Wait, your birthday is June 28th?
Okay, she's near that because I'm the 26th. I'm
the Black Rose and I are both
okay.
On the same
Okay,
day,
so I know we were
28th.
close in the birthdays, but she and I get you, Nzingha. But yeah, I love it. But she would. It wasn't only like, it was like a ritual to get your hair right, and then she had a poem for you, and that's why I left there at 10 o'clock at night, because everybody got their hair, you know, in the Afro, but she had a poem for everyone. Wow. And then she shared some other little things for you that were uplifting. And, you know, she's just, you know, there are people that are just have been in your life all that time. So, you know, this is what it's about. Nzingha, did you want to share any other things, like how the movement, your mother, your father have, you know, brought you to who you are, and just some of the things you're thinking about doing? And I know my partner, who's really been like one of the people's strategists, Brother Bernardo Ruby, that helped put Harlem Network News together. But when you were on with the Grandessa models, he got like so excited. And he's not a person that, you know, but he was like, oh my God, like I knew her father. He was a mentor. I mean, he just went into a whole level. So I know he's gonna want to connect and speak. And, you know, this is how we, it's the griot system. This is how we get our information. So thank you.
Yes, I love that. I'm excited. I'm excited to speak with a lot of people. I mean, it's just been, you know, my work life has been work life, but personal life is pretty stellar too.
Yes.
With all that's happening, and, you know, it's not something that I expected, but, you know, as you said earlier, we're built for it. You know, growing up around all of these amazing people, you know, like Diallo said, we're just kids, and they're just regular people to me. And not only, you know, my mom and my dad, but my godparents were brilliant. My godparents are Max Roach and Abby Lincoln.
All right. Okay. Can't get better than that.
You know, and the Braithwaites are all my godparents. So I'm surrounded by all of these incredible people, and I just knew them as my family members. You know, it was just kind of like a regular day. But to, you know, when you mature and you see who these people actually are and what contribution they've made to the world, my God, these are huge shoes to fill. And so, you know, the kind of work that I've been doing, you know, for 35 years working in entertainment, behind the scenes, you know, I kind of feel like, well, what could I do to match what they've done? You know, you know, and somebody else will say, oh, what you've done is pretty amazing.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, what could I say next to them? They started an entire movement.
But I think you're,
you know,
you're manifesting it. You are manifesting it, because I know when we had the conversation, you know, you were talking about imaging and all of those kinds of things. And those are very, very, very critical things, especially for our young people, you know, our
Yes.
image inside and outside. And, you know, the Black is Beautiful was not only an exterior thing, you know.
Right. Well, it's a lifestyle.
Yes.
It's a lifestyle, you know, people who, I'm trying to get video because now I'm actually stationary.
Okay, wonderful.
Give me 1 second.
Oh.
I'm still gonna talk to you while I try to get this
Yeah,
together.
no, it's no
But
problem. Thank you.
you know, the whole imaging thing was a huge part of the movement, the Black Power movement overall, because the Black Power movement had a soundtrack, you know, and I'm putting it in film terms because
Yes.
that's the language that I completely understand.
Right.
The industry had a soundtrack, but it didn't have a visual.
Mhm.
Other than, you know, some of us getting hosed down in the streets and
Right.
beaten and dogs
Okay.
put on us and all of these types of things, which I don't invalidate.
Yeah.
That the next iteration of that was the beauty of who we are.
Mhm. Yes.
And not to forget the beauty of who we are, and the beauty represented the pride of who we were.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I think that this is Harlem Network News, and we're winding down. I'm Terri Wisdom, but I think that's a very profound statement, Nzingha, you know, just in terms of getting to the beauty of who we are. And that is truly a struggle, even in this day, more than we thought it should be, you know, because in the late 60s and 70s, and you know, say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud, and people, you know, being proud of their skin and their hair. And, you know, here we are in 2023, and in a lot of instances, we've done some complete rollbacks, you know,
Right.
and it still is at the same crux of not loving yourself or not thinking you were good enough, or, you know, what God gave you, and really not knowing who we are, you know. So I think we're still in that, and that's why
Well, we're still defining it.
yes. Mhm.
We're still defining what Black is Beautiful is. You know, and to some of us it means absolutely nothing, and there are those of us who it's very important. Representation is very important. So you have all kinds of people that, you know, are represented under this umbrella of Black.
Yes, yeah, and we've always been a rainbow, you know what I'm saying? From Africa to
Exactly.
here, we've always been that. We're not one thing. Africa is a continent, you know, it's not a country, you know, we're not monolithic
Right.
in any kind of way. But you know, we've been, because of the enslavement and crossing and all of that. And, you know, fortunately in media like films like Woman King that come out and show us something, or if you've seen any of the films of, you know, some of the African Usman Semben, who showed us colors and ranges of people that, you know, we had not seen before. So imaging and seeing and knowing our story. And I mean, I had the privilege of traveling to the Republic of Benin, and actually going to the Palace of Abomey and seeing the stools and the breastplates. So that's a real true story. You know, Ganvi, the city on the water. So there's just so much that we don't know, and we're still learning, but we're doing that. Harold, and you passed over, Harold, and you spoke like kind of brief. My brother Ademola, and Ademola is one of our formidable artists, just amazing, has the Dwyer Center, and he's so formidable. He's a neighbor. He was a neighbor of mine for many years. Our children grew up together. He has this amazing piece that all the kids who grew up in the neighborhood, their names are on it. It's a huge piece. And I know he signed, my son and my daughter went to Howard University in fine arts, and they were there with Chad Boseman and all kinds of stuff. But Ademola is the one who signed my daughter's application. And I remember, I think when she took the SAT, there was a question, and she might want to have been one of the few people who knew the answer, you know, because it was like, who are great Harlem artists? Ademola and Nanette Carter. And, you know, I know she got that right. So share, Harold, you know, just a bit about what your journey has been. And you are an art activist for sure. And your brother is that as well.
Growing up having an Ademola as an older brother in the neighborhood was astonishing. He was in the 50s when he was a young 50s and 60s. He was actually a very active, he grew up playing the bass. So he was a jazz musician rolling that big old bass around on the one wheel. Wow. And he told me earlier that when he would close his eyes doing an improv, you would see colors. So he started out as a bassist. He also went to FIT high school. So he has fashion background, and he worked as a big cutter of like, it was fascinating. I grew up in sharkskin suits and mohair. I was one of the best dressed kids in my neighborhood. I was also 6 feet almost when I was 14 or so. So we were dealing with Jeannie Parnell. When she graduated college, she came to the after school program, and we did West Side Story. There was no white kids, so all the jets were Black. So I know every part of that whole thing. We did that for a few weeks. We did Guys and Dolls, and it was a fascinating early youth. Ademola was an inspiration to me. I have always been his curator for the past almost 50, 60 years. I've been working with him artistically. And I have my own life that have been wonderful. I went to the Virgin Islands at 20. Look at this. You are so right. Look at her. Now, did she come on to give us this?
I'm trying to get it together.
That's what it is.
Okay.
I'm in fashion also as a fashion show producer and commentator and director. All of that is part of my world early. I, at 24, decided to leave New York and go back home. It was the breathtaking, different thing. Peyton Place was on TV. So I left New York to go back to the Virgin Islands. I'm in this one street town that when you're going out of town or coming to town, there ain't no east or west side. You go over these hills. I'd never been, I grew up in the projects. They have hills that are 30 stories high, and then you go over a one-way, two-way street. I stayed there for 30 years. It was great. I started with a Sunshine Theater Company, the community theater, founding artistic director and actor. I was dancing back then, so we had the folkloric dance company of the Virgin Islands. I was on the Arts Council, very involved in most of that. We also, Kwanzaa, when we created Gums and Thomas, I think Bob and Burl met on the subway on 14th Street. And by the time they got to 125th, Bob said, I do book design. Adam, well, I do public relations, Burl talking. By the time they finished, they said, let's meet and talk about it. Gums and Thomas was formed from that. 35 years, Bob has been my associate with Ademola. Ademola is a top artist that has been around the world in work. And his being part of him, I also added my flavor to him. So I was bringing him down to the Virgin Islands. We went back to open a boutique and an art gallery and gift shop. And a lot of the young artists from the Virgin Islands, their first show was at the Gem Gallery. And we told them, you have to take your work, you have to put it in a frame, you have to spend $10 and get some cheese and crackers and some juice because you have to have a reception. You have to print an invitation, and you invite and these artists now, they became famous in the Virgin Islands, went on to but those were part of our early 70s. And I stayed when we closed our shop due to the inflation. I said, you know how the New York, I stayed and met, I'm still meeting cousins. So my generations of that as a
real quick. Do you know Peter Gonzalez?
Peter Gonzalez, Peter, of course.
Peter is our cousin.
Well, Bob Gums is the Gums. Bob's family from his father's side was the Gums of St.
Exactly.
Thomas. So
Exactly.
Bob's
Okay.
first camera came from his dad, who was a photographer.
Wow.
Exactly.
Amateur,
Wow.
but did well. I mean, we intertwined throughout this whole world. Wherever you're at,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
always somebody. I was in Germany in the army in a pit hole, and someone next to me said, "Oh, you're so." I said, "What?" He grew up. His aunt was in the Amsterdam houses
Mhm.
Oh,
in Germany in an army in the 70s. It was. This world is so
No,
unbelievable. As you, I represented Huggy Bean, which is the doll that you
right.
designed.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Louise just told me that Chris did the design for the Huggy Bean doll.
No,
So
that's very
how big
that's-
and broad is the
yeah.
group?
No, that's very
of us?
true. That's very true. The Huggy Bean, the first Black character doll with Bernardo and Yvonne Ruby coming out with that. And, you know, Bernardo also shared, I mean, Bob did a lot of the graphics for the Huggy Bean doll, you know, and
What?
yes.
I didn't
Chris,
know that.
yes, and Chris did the designs or animation or something, you know, so this is like a really, our community, like you said, people are connected because I mean, my first time, and this is Terri Wisdom, Harlem Network News, somebody took me, and I was, you know, like younger, so it wasn't like a date, but one of the Wayusi followers or gallery took me to the Wayusi gallery, and I was there, and I saw all this work and met Adamola and all these people, and Adamola really, I mean, if we talk about Harlem Renaissance, Adamola had like what I call soirees at his big apartment in 800
At Riverside, yes.
And there was music, there were artists, there were this, there were that. And I remember I lived in Queens, and I would, you know, get on the train and come to this party. And, you know, I was in, you know, maybe my early 20s. I was a mother, but I would like have to wait till it got light to go home, back on the train to Queens. And I remember there was a woman who lived in 800, and she was like, well, if you want to live up here, just come up here and talk to our landlord, talk to the other landlord. And that's how I ended up to get to 790 Riverside Drive. So Adamola is responsible for that. And I remember meeting Harold. He was coming with fashion apparel. And, you know, then I also remember my ex-husband, Anthony Wisdom, did a book. And Gums and Thomas published that book, A Little Bit of Wisdom. And that's when I met Bob, because I was like kind of the producer of that book. So we have a lot of cross-pollination and so many great people. So you know, it's so important that our stories are told. And Louise, I want to just commend you for doing the film. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I tried to grab it and see if I could do a clip, but that'll be another time because it wouldn't let me unless I was authorized, you know, but it's okay. Wherever I was pulling it.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
But
Well, I've tried to, you know, working in the film and television and entertainment industry for 35 years. I have to keep saying that because, you know, that is,
you're freezing a little bit, Nzingha.
I believe, the next iteration of what the family was starting. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Oh,
it froze
okay.
out a little bit, but it's okay.
Okay. I feel like, you know, what I've been doing for the last 35 years in entertainment is kind of like a reiteration of what the family started. And I didn't even, that was not something that was conscious to me while I was doing it, you know, because like I said, being a child of the movement, these are just regular people. That's just my uncle. That's just mommy. That's, you know, I'm trying to pave my own way in the entertainment industry, not realizing that I had all these great influences before that, you know, when you're young, you don't think like that. And to see it from the perspective of other people, as Diallo said,
Mhm.
People are coming to you and saying, oh my God, your
Right.
uncle, your godfather, you know, it's
Yes.
pretty amazing. And so, you know, just knowing that and trying to be true to myself and pave my own path in entertainment, which I think I
Yes, of
have.
course.
Um,
Definitely.
you know, it
Yeah.
can't be taken away at this point. So, you know, I've got a lot of friends that are going to be coming out
Okay.
next weekend.
Okay. That's a wonderful thing. And I think we are impacted by people, and there are no coincidences in terms of the connections that we have. You know, we're impacted. I probably only, well, I met your mother at I think Bob's birthday party in a community room or somebody, you know,
Oh, wow.
and I was impacted by her. You know,
Yeah.
I remember I have a lot of rings on my finger right now today, because I remember she had all these rings on, and I was like, whoa, that's powerful.
Yeah.
I got rings. I got rings
Yeah.
on. She inspired that. I only met her once, and then maybe I saw her again on 125th Street to talk. But I'm just saying, we inspire one another. And Louise, I just wanted to say, you can't speak lightly of, well, oh, you just did this and you just made a film. That's not lightweight stuff.
No,
You know, I'm
not
a
at all.
filmmaker. I went to school for that. I was in NET Film and Television Training School. I know about that. I worked at all the networks on features. That's not lightweight stuff. But
At
you
all.
persevered and you knew you had the content. And I guess because you do the TV show, and one of the things, people can't make a film by themselves, you know, so we know you had a whole crew, you know, that was working. So
And you have amazing amazing content because
yeah.
of the people, the subject matter,
Mhm.
and the fact that you know, you understand that these are pioneers, and pioneers are trailblazers.
Yeah.
And trailblazers are not, you know, they don't live very easily. And the movement
Yes.
was not an easy movement.
Right.
It was a difficult movement. And you know, what I have said about my family, you know, we're not the kind of people that, except for my father would put it to you.
Yes. That's very true. That's very true. You know, like I said, I was speaking with Bernardo, and he, you know, there was a thing where I think I wrote an article, and I was saying, well, you know, in looking research, like why they call him a street speaker. And I was like going to take that out. And Bernardo said, no, he was a street speaker.
He was more than that. That was one
in a
aspect
box.
of who he was.
He was making it happen. So.
Oh yeah, he was getting it popping. Because, and I say that because young people, I use the vernacular of young people,
course.
You know, because we're whatever we're doing right now is directed to a generation that's behind us. So it's not just about us in our, you know, bubble of pioneers, which is a great thing, but we also have to speak to the young people who we're passing this baton to.
Absolutely.
And you know, how they see things right now, and the people that we're giving flowers to.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, they were pretty amazing in their time 20s. They were teenagers when they first do that during that time frame where oppression was much stronger than it is now. You think this is strong? Imagine what that was.
Yeah, and that's I think is the beauty. I'm going to ask everyone for a brief closing statement. I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network. But I do want to say that in our time, and I'm at that a little bit of the behind their time, but still there, a lot of the movement came from the young people. You know, nobody was dragging us into the movement. We were the movement. And
well, all movement starts at a young age, I believe.
Yeah. Well, now it's kind of turning around, and we got to get it back there. But I think the circumstances that we had, as Marcus Garvey said, I don't know exactly, I can't quote it, but what the conditions are make you jump into what you have to, you know. And I realized, like, when I was at Lincoln University with Gil Scott Heron, I I was 17 years old, you know, but that was the most profound time probably in my whole life, you know, but we were coming out of a lot of being bused and racial things and the war in Vietnam, and that was directly impacting young people. So we had to get out there and deal with stuff because we were getting drafted, we were getting killed, we were in a hole in Vietnam fighting people we don't even know who they were, you know, so we had all of that. And as once again, as Gil Scott-Heron, we used to call him Spider-Man, but as he said, like it became winter in America, and that was a conscious movement to shift it around. So, I mean, that's what I can say. So,
and Gil Scott-Heron, just to tell the kids, Gil Scott-Heron was I would equate him to, for this generation, I would equate him to Kanye.
Mm.
in his own way, yes, yes.
Yeah, well, no, you have to
Yes.
you have to think about the level of popularity.
Yeah, popularity, maverick,
Absolutely.
going through all those things, and just a genius. You know,
Yes, an
wonderful
overall
genius. I mean,
a musical genius.
yeah, and a writer.
Mhm.
I mean, he's got several books, and if anyone wants to really understand the story, the last book he wrote, which was published posthumously, The Last Holiday, is a powerful book that tells a powerful story. And
Yes.
it's really about the college, the revolution, the times, you know, we're all so connected. So Louise, would you like to give us a closing statement?
Yeah, well, first of all, again, thank you for this opportunity. I want to also let everybody know that this screening will be on February 18th at the New York Public Library in the Bronx, located at 310 East Kingsbridge Road, you know, and so forth. Doors open at 2:30. It's limited seating. We ask that people get there no later than between 2:30 and 3 because the seating is limited and we have a cap. But you know, it's free admission this time. So again, thanks to our friends at the Bronx Historical Society. And I want to quickly say that there will be another screening in Manhattan on April 14th. To be determined, but we are planning another.
Okay.
So that will be the next one, but this one here is the first of two and maybe others. So thank you so much, Terry. I've had a wonderful time.
Thank you, Louise. It's
Thank
an
you.
honor to meet you, and I'm going to continue to dig and find that research and find out more about you and be connected.
Now it's
with
back.
you.
We can
Yes,
talk about it.
absolutely.
Yes, that'd be
Thank you.
wonderful.
Harold.
I just want to say, Terry, you also are vanguard because you and your first husband, Terry, Anthony, were the Wisdoms were back in the day, some of the vanguard filmmakers. So you get kudos and you are still always in the mix. And I'm proud and happy to be a big little brother, a little big brother, but the arts is part of our heart, our spirit. And as you speak of Bob and his legacy, before the fires, he wrote this book with Professor Mason about the Black people that came out of the South Bronx and some top jazz musicians, Colin Powell, all of these folk were part. Bob had street naming. Bob made sure that the parks was named after people. Bob was a vanguard person. And I was funny because he used to call me every morning at 9 or something. I called him at 8:58 one day. He said, Harold, do not call me before 9. And I said, yes, sir. So we've had a wonderful history, my 35 years of working and being with him. His wife, Ida, has always been the backbone. He would ask her questions before he even asked us about the art, but she was right there. And she's a power player.
Yes.
Power player. She's part of the Negro women that she's been there for 15 years, and she's the bookkeeper. I mean, she's keeping that money tight. I want to say, Terry, again, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's so beautiful to see Louise and Nzingha is starred. You see how she jumped on it from that picture. Look at her now. But
that was a reveal.
She just did that to pluck us all
that
up
was a
with her
reveal.
beauty.
That.
Thank you for your legacy. 35 years in any industry and do the type of work that you do. And she's keeping the beauty of our people on it because she gets hired by all the stars. Her resume is the length of your wall. Take care, everybody. Love you.
Okay, well, thank you, Harold. And I just also want to say, we're going to let Diallo close us out, but I would be remiss if I don't speak about Bob Gumbs and Kwanzaa. You know,
Yes,
and the connection
please.
through Bernardo and Kwanzaa cards and the Kwanzaa calendar. And then I remember we once had like some kind of Kwanzaa demonstration at the stationery show. And Ida and Bob did that together, and Bernardo and I worked with them on that. So
I probably met you there because Uncle Bob gave me my first job as a makeup artist with his Kwanzaa cards.
Okay. So, you know, so much history, Brother Jose Ferrer, you know, we have a lot of rich history, and we need to share it. We need to live it. And, you know, the Martyr 125th, a lot has happened to roll us back, but we are resilient people. So quick statement in Nzingha, and then we're going to let Diallo take us out.
Diallo, have the floor.
Okay.
Well, you know, I want to thank you, Terry, for having us all on. Louise, listen, you know, I'll tell you a quick story, and Harold will love this. So shortly after my father's transition, we were getting all the arrangements together. She told me about a conversation she had with Adamola. And Adamola's deep voice, they were going over, you know, the eulogy, putting it together. And my mother said, Adamola said to her, now, Ida, this can't be any small thing now, because you know Bob was that guy. So this can't be a small thing. And when my mother repeated that to me, I got a chill, knowing how connected I was to this man that I called father. And I'll, you know, end with this. They say great is who you are, but legacy is what you leave. And I'm just blessed to be in the presence of the legacy that's here. Thank you all. I appreciate you all. Love you all.
And we know he left that legacy in good hands, Diallo. And
Absolutely.
Like I said, you know, I've met you, I know you, but it's kind of like when you know somebody's parent, then you know them. You know what I'm saying? And you feel like you know them and you're connected to them, and whatever you need us to do, we're here. And I'm going to learn more about you and the body training and all of that.
And as you know,
need to stay here so we can keep doing what we do.
And as Brother Nipsey Hussle said, the marathon continues. And it does.
Okay. A luta continue on, the struggle continues. This is Harlem Network News. I'm Terri Wisdom, and we broadcast every Sunday at 4 on YouTube, Facebook. We're looking to expand to a television market, be it public access or maybe Channel 25, now that I'm knowing about Louise. But you know, the main thing is that we're interested in getting the information out to the people, preserving our history. We're on Instagram, Facebook, all the social medias. You can reach us directly at Harlem Network News at gmail.com, and you can also call us directly at 646-261-5397. If you have stories, information, please share it with us. We try to really get it out there. We consider ourselves the voice and drumbeat of Harlem. You know, if you can make donations, that helps us to stay on the air, or if you have ideas, you know, for how we can really take it to the next level, we're open. So we thank you very much. And this has been wonderful. And I just love doing this because I always learn something. Even I interviewed my own brother. We grew up in the same house with the same parents, and I learned stuff about him. So it's a wonderful thing. So thank you. And have a blessed day.
Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings.
Thank you.
Zing, I need that hat.
Love it. Okay.
Okay.
Stay well.